Hello again, I'm Doug Ireland, and this is Watson's Living Library Collection. It's a series of interviews with people who have interesting ties and relationships to Northwestern and to our community. This is the sixth such series. These will be ultimately available on a YouTube channel provided by Watson Library through DVDs and other methods to obtain these interviews. And these will exist in perpetuity. So folks, not only next week, not only next month, next year, but years from now can look back and see what was happening, who was making it happen, what stories they had to tell to reflect the evolution of our university and our community. And we've got four panelists today: Bobby Barbier, our head baseball coach and a former student athlete; Tori Morgan, a football student athlete; Lainey Ruse, a softball student athlete. Both of them have siblings who've been involved as well, so they've got great perspective. And Brad Laird, whose dad was a coach here, and he happens to be a football student athlete who now is a football head coach. And we'll enjoy visiting with all of them. And we'll start with Coach Barbier. Bobby, you, like Coach Laird, grew up the son of a coach. So I guess the involvement in athletics for you was almost out of the cradle.
Yeah, it was, I guess he would never have made me do that, but it's what you're around all the time, you know, and ever since I can remember, I actually was probably more interested in football than I was in baseball growing up. My skill set kind of just took me the baseball route, you know, but since I was, like I said, I remember I was carrying around a bat or a ball or helmet, or, you know, did something with sports from ever since I can remember.
When did you begin to sense baseball was your sport?
I mean, I was probably young, you know, 10, 11, 12 years old when my body started maturing a little bit. You know, I was one of the bigger guys. I was pretty strong. I couldn't run, probably like some of the ones to my left here. But, you know, so I had to hit it over the fence for us to score. But it was, it got to a point where I went to Shaw High School, Archbishop Shaw High School down the West Bank, and we had both. We were really good in football, and we had a solid baseball team. And it was just something that I enjoyed, the competitive aspect of being able to do it in the fall and the spring, you know, and that was special to me. And then we played all summer long like the kids do now. So I guess probably my junior and senior year, it kind of started to separate itself a little bit, where I started getting some interest from colleges. I didn't have a ton. It's not like I had them knocking down my doors, but I had a neat connection. Terry Joseph was my assistant baseball coach, and Terry kind of was the reason I ended up here at Northwestern State.
Terry had been a great player here, Southland Conference Player of the Year, had gone into professional baseball, had nearly made it to the major leagues, and now, ironically, is a highly successful college football coach at the University of Texas.
That's right.
But he certainly has a great love for this institution and thought this would be a good place for you. So what were your first impressions of Northwestern?
Well, I think it gives me a very unique perspective now. But my first impression was that it was big. You know, I mean, I went to an all-boys high school, so that's another thing. We actually had girls here, which was different. But it was big, and I wasn't sure of my place in it. I think that was for some reason that stands out, is that I wasn't sure of exactly where I stood. I remember I was in a student union one day with Anatole Vincent, who's my daughter's parrain or godfather, and we had a current sauce reporter come talk to us. And talking to Anatole, but I was there, so she started to ask me a couple questions, and I told her, I said, I don't know if I'm on the team yet. Like, I'm not sure what's going on here. And Anatole was like, man, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna play. You know, I was on scholarship. You know, you're gonna play. But I think that when I think back at that story, it shows me that how unsure I was, and probably how unsure some of these guys and girls are when you get here. No matter what, because everybody's better at where they were, right? I mean, everybody is, you know, the top, at least of your team, most time top of the district, sometimes the state. So it's when you get to with a lot of people like you know, you try to figure out where you fit in, and we've seen. I mean, now that I can look at as a head coach, is that the guys that come in that are pretty confident and sure of themselves are the ones that, and sometimes it takes guys a little longer than others, but those are the ones that, can play early, can do things that are, can come in and contribute right away.
In those early stages, how do you begin to develop not only some sense of confidence that you belong, but that it is a unique experience being part of this Northwestern culture? And it's every university, every team has its own culture, but as you begin to assimilate into this program's culture, this university's culture, when did you feel, hey, I'm a part of this?
Well, I think one reason I came to school here because I thought it was the right fit, right? I mean, Coach Gaspard was the head coach there. Terry played for Coach, knew that it would be a good fit for me. I think having a dad who's a coach at home, I mean, that helps too, right? I mean, he can guide you. He's been through it. He's seen it. He's done all those things. And then I think good coaches that instill in you, I mean, I thought all of my coaches that I've had here over time, Mitch was a head coach. We had a few different assistants at different points, but like it seemed like they poured into us, into giving us confidence and to making sure we knew that what we were wondering. I think that's part of our job as coaches is to, whatever you're unsure of is to make you sure of. And it's not going to be great all the time, but it can still be something that you're confident in.
And so you become part of the team, you become part of the lineup, and this has been a highly successful program. Talk about the transition into being one of the core players and the success the program had and the pride you felt in that.
Sure. So our opening series was at LSU as a true freshman, and I wasn't in the starting lineup, but I was so nervous to take in and out pregame, and Anatole he's like, man, you can't screw it up too bad, and I did. I screwed it up pretty bad. But then the BP the next day, I hit some balls over the fence, and it was like, all right, now we're good, And then as I think I got 80 or 90 at bats that year as a freshman. As my career moved on, it was when I was in the moment, it was tougher because you always want to judge what's going on instead of just concentrating on getting better, and that's what we try to get out of our guys too. And it's kind of like an outside view, and well, am I going to be all conference, or am I going to be this, or man, if I get 4 hits today, my average goes from 280 to 320, and trying to stay out of that mindset. And it's so much easier as a 40-year-old than it was as an 18-year-old, but trying to stay out of that mindset and really concentrating on getting better all the time. I still felt like I was earning a job every year. I remember my sophomore year, I came in from the fall, I kind of was a part-time player my freshman year, and there was 2 junior college first basemen sitting over there, I mean, it's like, oh, all right, guys, I guess here we go, and got lucky enough to beat them out and had a really good year that year, but still I kind of had that sense of urgency, which I think is important for young guys and girls that you need when you're trying to get better at a very important part of your life.
And you just touched upon it, the evolution of the roster. You go from being the new guy looking up to your friend, and then all of a sudden you're one of the guys steering the new guys. And that's really where the program culture and what being a demon becomes really intrinsic to you. So how do you know it's time for you to share that leadership role with the guys who are coming in?
Well, I think it was so much done for me at first, right? And that's how you build a team, is that the guys that are older do it for you, and you can see how they do it. And having success helps it a lot, right? I mean, there's many times as I got older and, I'm the leader, but I'm not playing well. So how do I lead without playing well? And that's difficult. We try to tell our guys now, it's more about what you do every day, because I can't get in the locker room and lead if I'm going out all night and cutting up and drinking and sleeping in, missing class. If I'm doing that, everybody knows it, right? All my team, even my coaches don't know it. All my teammates know it. So if I'm gonna be the one that leads, and I'm gonna lead all the time without even playing well, and I think probably my junior year is kind of when that started happening. And I wasn't a big I didn't have to worry about that stuff as much. But I think at that point, it kind of all came together, where the playing well and guys respecting your game, but then also respecting how you conduct your business and what you do off the field and how you do business in the classroom. I think that kind of all came together about junior year, and then I really started to learn that I could be the guy that guys now learn from.
You mentioned the classroom. Not only were you a quality player on the field, but you became an academic All-American off the field with your academic pursuits blending with your athletic excellence. And clearly you have a commitment to that. What does that distinction mean to you? Did it mean to you then, and does it mean to you now?
So when we have guys in on visits, we have guys that have 2.5 GPAs to 4.0 GPAs. And we always talk about that we're going to get what's out of you, what can come out of you, right? Like we're not going to talk about eligibility ever, but if you make a 4.0 in high school, I'm not going to let you make a 2.6 and think that you're doing okay just because you're passing class. For me, school wasn't very hard coming from, I had a really good high school, I made really good grades in high school, and came here and I did what I was supposed to do, right? Went to class, did all those things. So it wasn't as difficult, but I think I'm more proud of recognizing that there were guys on the team that it was difficult for. And I invested in them to help them, and I think that was probably meant more to me than, the academic All-American was awesome. Like I found out at my house, we all high-fived, we hugged, it was really cool. It was something that I really wanted. It was something that I kind of strive for, I guess. But if there was a guy who was a little smarter than me that had a few more homers, maybe he would have got it. Like when you kind of look back on it, it's not as important as it seemed in the moment. And what was more important is the relationships that I had with those other guys that helped each other out. Maybe the guys that like I said, struggled a little more, or the guys that were a little smarter that helped me out. And I think that was probably more important at the time.
And then you went in after your playing career, became a coach immediately. Had some experience here, went to the University of Alabama with Coach Gaspard, had some tremendous experience there, and wound up back here as pitching coach and then head coach, and been very successful as head coach. What do you try to pass along to your players? What does being a demon athlete mean?
I think it means what it means to be a good student, what it means to be a good son, a good dad, a good coach, a good all those things. Is that we have to create an environment with our player or coach that truly pulls people in, right? And we're past the point, and at least for me, of pushing guys. We don't push guys a whole bunch. We want to convince guys that they want to do the right thing all the time to be a part of what we have. And I think that's being a demon, right? That's like, I got to get 40 of them to go, I want to be a part of that so much that I'm going to go to class, that I'm going to do extra in the weight room, that I'm going to do these things. And you see that in the guy, and they're not all going to be perfect, and they're not all going to want to do it right away, but you see that in the guys that come back for Alumni Day, right? And they tell those stories, and they all the things they went through because they really wanted to be a part of this. The love that's created in that locker room and across the campus, really. There were plenty of friends that I had that weren't in the athletic department. That I've got relationships with. For the rest of my life. So it was a great time. Obviously, it was so great I won't leave. But it was a great time in my life that I still enjoy.
Now, as you sit here, really in the middle of the season for you, starting the stretch run for another month of conference play, how do you feel the program sits in terms of where you hoped it would be at this stage of your coaching career?
It's a good question. I think that, obviously we would have loved to go to Omaha every year and win championships and do those things. I think that we try to judge it a little differently. I think we've won enough games and, won a championship. We've done those things, but we try to judge it on how we treat the boys, the men, what they leave here with. I think we've done that. in our league, so let's just take this year. In our league this year, and just like last year, everybody is very equal. I mean, last year we had, I think, 4 teams, including us, going into the last weekend with a chance to win the conference. So the margin for error is very small, when it's like that. We'll be the same way this year. I think we're in second place right now. We went into the last weekend in first place, lost 2 out of 3, and now we're in second. So it's, I think the facility has had a major upgrade. I mean, I think we've done a great job there. I think the roster is in a really good shape. So very, very, very proud of what we've done over the last 7 or 8 years.
Okay, in conclusion, Bobby, baseball is one of the sports we play here. I know that you maintain a great interest in all the sports here. Can you, in just a few words, encapsulate the commitment of the coaches and the student athletes here?
It's unwavering. It needs to be, and it is. It's a commitment where we don't have what LSU and big schools have as far as resources and all those things, but it's something that we don't need that to be successful, and the people are what makes it, and that has to be what's at the forefront. And you have to know that coming in. Like, you have to know that if you're going to come to school here, you got to be one of us. You can have your own thoughts and things, but you have to start thinking like us, because that's what's made this place so good for so long.
Well, it's a great transition to go from one guy who grew up in New Orleans to another guy who grew up in New Orleans, and you referenced the student athletes, and now we go to 2 of them, and first we'll start with Trevor Morgan, and well, I call him Trevor, Tory Morgan. And that's really what I was going to get into first is, like Bobby, you had an older influence in your family who you probably role modeled as a young kid, and then as it became time to start choosing a college, he had a great experience here and wanted you to have that same experience. Let's get to the fundamental things first. You're a football player. What position do you play?
I play linebacker.
Have you always been a linebacker?
Yeah. In middle school, well, in elementary, I played D-line. I was always the bigger person. So, they never really used me as a skill guy. So I always played, D-line, O-line. But once I got into middle school, they started to see that I'm more agile, able to play other positions. But linebacker, one that stuck out to me.
Now, Tori, you came out of one of the perennial powerhouse high school programs in Louisiana, Edna Carr. You won 2 state championships, I think, your last 2 years. If they're not in the Superdome playing for the state championship, it's an unusual year. Mm-hmm. What was that culture like, and how did that help you transition to collegiate football?
At Edna Carr is about family. It's not about the championships. It's not about the rings. That's what we strive for, but it's more about family and getting us to buy into just learning how to be a better person in life, be a better young man. And I feel like they did a tremendous job with me, even though my mom passed at a young age, but they filled that void for me and was able to teach me how to persevere through many things. So I feel like at Carr, it's a great place to reflect, and they teach you, they reach you, and they show you things, and you got the coaches who played there, so they give you an example of how, if you follow what they say, this is what you're gonna be. So I feel like they did a great job in turning me into a sessional leader, and be able to lead a team to a championship, and to just be able to lead myself each and every day.
Your brother came out of Carr and wound up here. How did that happen?
So, my oldest brother wasn't really supposed to come here. He didn't have a scholarship here, but he came in on academics because, he was great at academics, awesome. I'm good, but he was exceptional. Now he got here and he did his thing, and his goal was to always play football. Everybody goes to make the NFL. That definitely was one of his goals. And me growing up watching him play ball every day, that just inspired me to see NSU is a good place, because he was able to grow here and be able to persevere here and become a better person. So once I figured out about this place, and once I finally get to meet Brad Lair, he told me about the program. I was able to come here and see the program, and it's different. I'm from New Orleans. I'm from a city place, but I feel like I needed to come here into like a slower environment to be able to reflect on myself and to be able to like see my goals for what it is. So
Academically, what were you interested? What are you doing?
I'm interested. Like I said, I'm not really the math person, but I'm really interested into like the business administration, being able to learn how to run a business, be able to like learn how to be a leader in the business. So that's definitely, and I know they got a good business program here, so that's another plus why I came here.
And you're still young. I mean, you've been at Northwestern, is it 2 years?
Oh, 1 year.
1 year?
Going on.
Okay, this is your redshirt freshman year coming
Yeah.
out in the spring. So the situation has changed this year for you from getting acquainted, getting your feet on the ground, understanding the football system, understanding the campus environment. How has that process gone for you, and where are you in it?
I feel like I'm still learning more. Like each and every day I'm learning something. It's like I said, it's different. It's not high school. You got more independent. You got to learn how to manage your hours, learn how to manage being a student and an athlete, and that's very hard. So I feel like, but it's definitely making me into a better person. It's definitely making me into a better athlete too, because if I'm not good in class, I can't do nothing on the field. So it basically pushed me on both levels, on and off the field. So I feel like I'm fitting in. I feel like I'm starting to love NAC. It's just like a second home to me now. So.
All right, this seems as good a time as any because you had Trevor ahead of you. You've got a better sense than most young guys on your team and in your program and young student athletes at Northwestern as to what being a demon means. What does being a demon mean to you?
I feel like being a demon means to me is like basically having like first respect for the program, also being able to like be a student athlete if you're an athlete, and also just learning how to like do the right thing at all times, learning how to be accountable. That's a big thing that, you know, we talk about, learning how to be accountable on and off the field. So I feel like being a demon, you definitely gotta have that motive of a demon, being hold yourself accountable, and to just, you know, be a good person, you know.
This is spring practice. Their spring game, the Delaney Bowl, is Saturday. It's not the most glamorous time. Off season, there's a lot of work that goes into what you do. Tell us the level of commitment required out of season to be a successful student athlete, let alone in football.
You got to be committed. It's long days. You go to class, then you go straight from class to practice to film. So it takes a lot of dedication. Like if you're not dedicated, then it will show. But if you're dedicated and you trust the process, then you definitely will become a better athlete. And like I feel like, you know, this spring definitely shows what the team has, and I feel like we got a great team this year. We got great leaders. We got coaches that, you know, the players buying in. So I feel like this spring it's definitely hard off season, but I feel like it kind of helps build your identity of your team. So I feel like it's needed.
You've come here at a good time. Last year, the Demons played for the conference championship, had some success. Now there's a spirit around the program that those kind of days are going to be consistently here. As more a secondary guy, not a guy who was out starting last year, but a guy who was part of the team, how did you view last season? And now as somebody that's stepping up in prominence on the team, how do you look forward to this season?
Being a redshirt freshman last year, it made me like, you know, I had to sit back and see like people who are in front of me that play in my position and then learn how they do it. So it definitely made me like see what I have to do to get on the field, to be able to contribute to winning. And it definitely made me into a better college, because, you know, in high school, like I said, like he said, when you at your high school, around time out of 10, you are the best person there. But when I got here, it's different. It's like, it ain't always about, oh, you talented. It's about, can you get the playbook down? That playbook thick. So it's like, so it's about like, can you do that and do that and take care of your business off the field? So it definitely made me like, I needed that to like sit back and see how things is ran so I could be able to fit myself in, so I could be able to contribute to getting more, the success of the team.
So who are some of the players who we can look forward to being integral to that success this fall?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I'm definitely getting in the groove of playing here. I'm definitely getting into the groove of the defense. And my goal is to be a very impactful player on any parts of wherever coach need me at, that's where I'm gonna be at. Special teams, defense, even if you need me to snap the ball, I'll snap it. Whatever just for me to like interpret myself into being a team player, that's definitely what I'm trying to do this year. I'm just trying to show that, I could do it for myself and for my family and for the younger people that's looking after me, because a lot of people look up to me in the city, in New Orleans. So for me to be up here doing that and being a student athlete and making sure my grades good, like they look up to me. So for me to be the example for them, like I'm making sure each and every day that I'm on my P's and Q's.
You and Laney are in a unprecedented situation for Northwestern student athletes. Football has had plenty of TV opportunities through the years. Now every game you play is available to the folks back home in New Orleans, folks back home in Texas. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. Just to be able to have the opportunity to be on TV, that's big to me. Rarely everybody gets to get on TV. But it just also show like your hard work, able to be displayed on TV for everybody to see, because nobody sees the off season. Everybody sees the outcome of the game, who's gonna win. So for you to be able to be rewarded from the off season to be on TV, it's a great thing. Then you'll be able to display what your team been working on and what like the hard work I've been putting on is actually displayed on TV. So it's a great opportunity to show like what your team about.
Take us through the off season. Last game's in November, hopefully in December when you go to the playoffs. But once the games stop, what, from a football perspective, are you and your teammates doing until preseason practice begins in August?
I ain't gonna lie, when it stops, you get a little lost because we eat, we go to sleep to football. We think about football all the time. We think about school. So it's like a consistent cycle that we wake up. So when it stops, it's different. But one thing we just all try to do is just always meet up, do voluntary, go on the field, just stay around the game to keep ourselves occupied. So like I said, we just make sure our grade's good so we be able to hit the field the next coming season.
The summertime, general students finish the semester and many of them are able to go home or go off to summer jobs, adventures, vacations, trips. In your game, there's a little different culture. Talk about that.
It's different because, we won't really get the whole summer. We get like a month or two, depending on. But I feel like at the end of the day, I'd rather be here in the summer, be able to build myself and be able to for the team to build itself so we could hold that championship trophy at the end. It's worth it. So I feel like at the end of the day, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, we want to be home, but at the same time, we definitely want to hold that trophy up too. So it's sour, sweet but sour. It's sour but sweet, but it's good though. I like it. I feel like it makes me a better person. It makes the team a better team. Could be able to bond in that time too. So.
Then there are 11 game days. There are typically 5 home games where you get to run through the purple smoke, hear the fight song, see your family, your student, friends up in the stands, faculty, other people that you've met in the community. Explain the emotion of those days and what it means to you and your teammates.
It means a lot. Just piggybacking off of when we played Nichols, like that game definitely showed me what Demon Nation is about. Like, we won, it was a great atmosphere. That whole week of school was great. That's probably one of my best week of school I've ever been in. So it just shows like, we believe in the culture here and we love winning and, we do what it takes to win. So I think it means a lot to everybody on this team to win and to be able to like be part of NSU.
That win and a couple others last year were ones where you came back. This team rallied at times from very steep odds to win. What kind of confidence boost did that give you guys week to week, and what does that do for you now as you're in the spring anticipating the fall season?
It definitely boosts our confidence to see that, we could, come from losing to getting it back. It just, like I said, it all is in the summer, when you're working and then it all gonna pay off once you just keep trusting the process. So like the times that we were down, we just trusting the coaching, trusting our game plan, and we did our 1 out of 11, and then we came back and won. So it definitely gave us the confidence to know that we could continuously do this if we just stick to what we're doing, stick to the objectives we gotta follow and everything. So I feel like it definitely gave us confidence. And as far as now, it shows us that we could do it. We fell short last year, but I feel like last year was just a example of what we could do this year, the things we gotta fix. We could learn from last year so we could fix it this year and be able to take it home.
The game has changed in the last 2, 3, 4 years with the transfer portal. Now you're out there, and the next year there could be 4 other guys at your position. Talk about the competitiveness that's required to not only hang in there, but progress.
Yeah, the transfer portal is a big thing, but I feel like when someone transfers, it's about the next person being up. So like it definitely shows that, somebody could leave and you gotta be able to be ready to step up and be that. Even a young player like me, just being able to understand that, somebody left, but at the same time, it's your time to step up, it's your time to show your hard work. So it's just about responding, being able to respond to adversity is the same thing to me.
Last question for you. Tori, describe your perfect 2023 season.
The perfect what?
Perfect 2023 season.
Holding the trophy up. That's the goal, that's the motto. That's no deposit, no return. We gotta put our deposit in so we can get our return. So I feel like now we putting our deposit in, we putting the hard work, the sweat, the tears. And now it's just gonna reflect for the season. Then once it reflects, we hold that trophy up and be able to say that we did it. We made it to the finish line. We did what others believed we couldn't.
We'll look forward to seeing that happen.
That's it.
Laney Roos is somebody who is unique in our history. There aren't many student athletes who have 2 siblings who have also been or are also student athletes. Very few families in our university's history have that distinction. Is that anything that's ever occurred to you?
No.
No?
I don't know many people on my team where their older siblings have played at NSU.
Yeah. Your big sister was the one who came here first. Talk about Kylie and how her time here influenced you and your sister Lexi, who's also on the team, to choose Northwestern.
Growing up, I was able to watch her play here, and I was able to see like the level and what it takes to get there. And me and my sister growing up, we knew that it was taking a lot of hard work and where we needed to be to get to where she was at.
And you knew how to say Natchitoches already. That was helpful.
Yeah,
You
we were
knew where-
familiar with the area,
Yeah.
and Coach Pickett, coached her, and he's still here, so we were familiar with him. And we knew that, he was a great guy, he was a good person to play for.
Let's step back. Obviously, 3 sisters playing softball. When did softball, as you were growing up, become important to you?
I would say when I was like playing kid pitch when I was little, I was like way advanced than everybody else was. And so I was like, wow, I want to stick with this. Like I really liked it. And I knew like that I had what it takes to play at a higher level.
And what positions did you play when you were young? And what are you playing now?
When I was little growing up, I was a pitcher. Like I pitched all throughout high school, even I stopped pitching my freshman year of college. So she was a pitcher, my sister was, and I was like, I really like that, so I wanted to do it too. So I pitched up until my senior year, and then I got to college, and I was like, that is too much for me to try and do that, and to be an outfielder as well. So I play outfield here, and I kind of just hung up my cleats on pitching. I was like, I'm done doing this.
I don't know that anyone who hasn't been immersed in it can fully appreciate the level of commitment that softball players have to get to the collegiate level from, like you say, kid pitch and travel ball on the weekends. Tell us what you and your family's experience was around the year to get you guys to the point where you could play college softball.
When I was about 14 is when they started to realize, okay, recruiting was getting serious then. It was before they started, making the rule where you couldn't talk to coaches till like your junior year. So for about 14U, my coaches, I got put on a really good team where I was traveling, playing outside of Texas, playing in California, Kansas, playing at a bunch of places where it was going to get me the exposure to play at this high level. So I would say it started about 14U is when I realized that I wanted to play at a high level.
And then you get to the point where the recruitment is very intense and you've got to make decisions. What other schools were in the mix, if any, and what swung your decision this way?
So it's funny that you asked that. I actually didn't start out here. I played softball at LSU my freshman year. It was like my fall semester. I transferred this semester, and it was the first time me and my sister had played a part, and I was like, I don't really like this. So I transferred at the semester. So my freshman year in the spring, I played here. I wasn't here a full year, but I was able to play because we're a spring sport. So I've been here since the spring of my freshman year.
And you're what now, junior?
I'm a junior.
Yeah. So you went through COVID as an athlete.
Yeah, I missed all of my senior season.
Yeah, what was, and I should have asked Tori this, but what was the COVID experience like as a student athlete, let alone as a human being?
It was kind of hard because like all the spring sports really missed everything. Like every sport that was in the fall, they got to continue with their sports. It was really like spring. It was spring break for me actually. We were supposed to play, we got rained out, and then we never got to play again. And ever since then, it was just like, I don't understand why we're not playing. It was hard to try and, you miss your senior year, you play all 3 years but your senior year. So that was kind of hard, and then it was hard going into college with it because, you hadn't played in so long, and then travel ball was like not the same because of COVID. You had to, wear the mask all the time. You don't play softball in a mask, and a face mask at least. So it was just like hard to like, I don't know.
Difficult, yeah, certainly it was unprecedented, and there wasn't anybody to say this is how you do it. But you got here and won. You had a sister here, you had a sister who'd been here, so you had a little bit of this is how you do it at Northwestern. How much did that help you?
It just helped to already know the area and to know like Coach Pickett and realize that he was a good coach, he was a good guy. You knew what you were going to get out of him. And so with my sister being here, she kind of just like set the example for us.
And academically, how did you settle in?
It was kind of hard because, my classes at LSU, it's obviously a bigger school, so there was like hundreds of kids in my classes there. And coming here, it's not like that. And a lot of it there was online, and I was able to have, some in-person classes here. It was just like smaller classes, which was kind of hard to like start out your freshman year with all online classes. I wasn't used to that, but
It's worked out pretty well.
yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, you're one of the most accomplished players on the team. You'll be in the record books. You've been an all-conference player. You rank in some of the career and single-season top 10s. You've also been recognized as a scholar athlete. So what do those achievements mean to you?
It just takes a lot of hard work. You got to stay hungry. You got to stay motivated to, keep working outside of the season. The fall is really where it starts. You got to do a lot of stuff every single day. You can't really take days off in the fall because in the spring it catches up to you when, you're playing games and you don't have the time to like hit extra, be at the field extra because you're always gone. Okay,
and this is another question I wish I'd thought to ask Tori, but you'll certainly answer it very compelling fashion. What's fun about it?
I would say traveling, just making all the memories, like with your friends and your teammates.
What do you guys do to entertain yourselves? I mean, what do you pull pranks on each other? Do you have little rituals and habits? And obviously, like you say, the travel experiences. What are some of those things that are fun?
Yeah, the bus rides for sure. It's just, the longer ones is when, we kind of get delirious towards the end and we're just like messing with each other all the time. We really like to mess with Coach Pickett, believe it or not. We like to play a lot of pranks on him. And, he's really fun about it, so it makes it even more fun to like keep doing it because he knows we're joking. He doesn't take it to heart.
Now, the bus trips I made through the years, there may have been a lot of cards played. Are you guys card players, or is there anything else, or what do you do to pass that time?
No, we don't really play cards. It sounds crazy if like it's like really what guys do, but we kind of like roast each other on the bus. Like we make fun of each other a lot. Like everybody does. It'll be quiet, we're making fun of each other. No one takes it to heart, but it's just like funny.
Okay, you've got a sister on the team. So does that give you an advantage in roasting her, or do you guys kind of have a mutual deterrent thing and don't get on each other?
No, we really don't have a chill with each other, so like I will roast her and she'll roast me back, but we know just not to take it to heart because we're sisters at the end of the day, so she knows I'm not being serious with her.
Let's address some more broad questions. What do you think, as an athlete, is the biggest challenge in sports?
I don't know about like football, but I feel like for softball, for us, because it is such a long sport, we're playing from February to May. I feel like for us, it's just like staying motivated throughout the season to, put in the extra work, even though you don't really have that time, because like everybody goes through like slumps and stuff during the middle of the season. It's just like to stay motivated to get out of it, to do the extra work, to feel something different and not feeling the same thing over and over and over again.
You kind of addressed this already when you talked about the bus rides and such, but what is one of the best thing about being part of a team?
I feel like it's all the friends that you make throughout it, the coaches you play for, the strength coaches you have. It's just like all the new people that are brought into your life.
Now here's one that really is interesting. Both you and Tori have talked about the level of commitment and the time spent invested. How's being a student athlete affect your social life?
It affects it a lot. For us, it's more of like in the spring, just when we're playing. In the fall, we have a little bit more of that free time, but really in the spring, you don't get to go home, you don't get to see your friends. It's just really school and softball. That's like what you're here to do, and that's all you do.
And is there a point where the season's over and you have a chance to kind of get back into a more normal routine, or is it a transition?
It's really like, it's right after a season. When you get to go home, I feel like it's when everyone gets to, see their friends. Like when you go home, that's what you're most excited for, see your family and see your friends.
So what's your favorite part of being a student athlete?
I would say my favorite part about being a student athlete here is just like getting to play for Northwestern State, the culture here, all the people you meet. I would say that's what my favorite part is.
And what's the bigger sacrifices? I think you've just touched upon some of them that you have to make to be a student athlete.
You just have to give up a lot of stuff and realize that you're only here for school and softball. You're not here for all the stuff that happens outside of it. You're here for your school. You're a student athlete first, so you're here for your school, and then you're here for your sport and all the work that it has to put into it.
And how do you feel like this is preparing you for life after college, life after softball?
I feel like here, like being a student athlete, it's a lot of like overload with stuff, like your work, like trying to balance that and like being gone all the time. So I feel like the structure part of it will really help me because you wake up and you have the same routine every single day, and that's good as a routine.
Unlike the other three people here, you're not a Louisiana person.
No.
Aubrey, Texas. Where's Aubrey?
It's like probably like 20 minutes from Frisco, Texas.
Okay.
Like that's an hour from Dallas, but I live like right next to Frisco.
Part of that big DFW metroplex.
Right.
Not a country town.
No.
Used to be a long time ago,
Yeah.
I'm sure. But, so how is Natchitoches and Northwestern like home and different from home?
I would say it's like home in the sense of like Northwestern State is like one of the smaller schools compared to the schools around us, and like my high school wasn't very big, so it's kind of like a small town thing, and I liked that. It's very similar.
Now, when you're playing in Texas school, does that juice you up a little bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other thing about softball culture. You're playing against former summer ball teammates, maybe former high school teammates. How fun is that you get to run into those folks and compete?
Yeah, it's fun. There's a lot in our conference that, I haven't played with since I was probably like 18. So it's nice to like see all of them again. Not necessarily play on the same team, but you're on the same field as them again. So it's just like fun.
Yeah. And the other thing that I find, particularly in baseball and softball, is the dedication of the families and how committed they are to supporting you guys. Talk about your personal experience with that and what you see in a broad perspective. And Brad Laird, who is a baseball dad now, is nodding his head. So tell us about that level of commitment from your family and other families.
Yeah, not only did I have to like give up a lot, my parents did too, because when you can't drive, you're 14, your parents have to take you everywhere. They're having to buy you all your stuff. Like they're giving up just as much of their time as you have to give up yours. And they put in a lot of time too. If I didn't have my twin and they had to, throw me front toss, hit me balls, they had to put in just as much of the work that I did, and I wouldn't have been able to make it without them.
You're in a program that has a lot of wonderful tradition through the years, championship tradition, and a great culture here, and your facility has seen improvements. What do you see as the program now, the identity of it, and what do you want to see after you leave?
They kind of talked about getting us like a bigger scoreboard. They talked about, covering our cages, making them longer, covering the bullpen. And I feel like our program deserves that. We haven't really gotten it now, but they're talking about it, but I would like to see them, add on all the stuff that they're saying too, because our program does deserve that, and we do put in a lot of work, and we deserve to have nice things just as well as every other school does.
And maybe the last question, and it should have come up earlier, Title IX, opportunities for women. How do you feel things are balanced, or are they imbalanced here at Northwestern with opportunities for women's sports and the respect that you guys get as student athletes and teams?
Yeah, I think that we get a lot of respect. I don't really think like a lot of people watch softball. I feel like the only times they really see it is when the World Series is on and someone makes like a crazy play. It's probably when they really see it. I don't know many people that just like follow along with softball.
I'm going to give you one bonus question, which I asked Tori. Now all of a sudden, you're part of that trailblazing generation of student athletes here that have your games on ESPN Plus, and so the folks back home in Texas and your friends all around and folks who know you can keep an eye on you. What does that mean to you?
It's awesome because, sometimes your family can't always make it, but them just being able to, turn a TV on and watch you, it's nice because they're just not always able to make it. And sometimes you play too far and they're not able to. And so it's awesome that they're able to just turn it on the TV and support you that way too.
Well, as somebody that sits and watches a few games, it is awesome to watch you guys, that's for sure. Now we'll go to Coach Brad Laird, who I knew as a 9-year-old. His dad was offensive coordinator under Coach A.L. Williams here, and Brad was a, shall we say, precocious 9-year-old who became an outstanding high school athlete, not only in football, but in basketball at Ruston High School. Little trivia for you guys. Brad Laird was the quarterback of not only a state championship team at Ruston High School, but the #1 team in the nation in USA Today's poll as a senior. And he's in the Louisiana High School Hall of Fame as an athlete. He's been at Northwestern as an assistant coach, more or less with a couple of years exceptions since he finished playing. and he finished playing as our all-time leader in career passing yardage. So we're going to go 2 levels as we did with Coach Barbier with Coach Laird. First, your student athlete experience, Brad. With all those high school accomplishments, you weren't the star recruit because you were a little smaller than most colleges wanted. What was it like leaving a program like Ruston at the peak of its success and then coming here with something to prove?
Well, if you go back to the success that we did have at Ruston High there in 1990, for me it almost didn't happen. Because my favorite sport was basketball. I was the next Michael Jordan, and you couldn't tell me anything different. After my 9th grade year, going into the spring, I actually, and my dad being a former coach of 40 plus years, think about going to him and say, hey, I'm fixing to quit football. And, the one thing that, as I look back that I probably have taken from that is he said, hey, it's your decision. Now, luckily, there was other coaches that came to me and kind of talked some sense to me. And at that time, I was frustrated because as a 7th and 8th grader, I was a quarterback. As I get to 9th grade, I was not the quarterback. I was on the bench, and I couldn't play any other position, so they couldn't put me anywhere else. I wasn't a good enough athlete to play anything. I wasn't big enough to play the offensive or defensive line, and I was a pretty good basketball player. And so going into my sophomore year, I was actually starting in basketball, and we had a guy by the name of Scotty Thurman. For those that may not know, Scotty Thurman played for the University of Arkansas in 1994 when they won the national championship. But Scotty was actually a year younger than I was a freshman. His brother, Al, who was better than Scotty, was also on that team, and we had a good basketball team. So, I was going to be that star basketball player, and luckily I had another coach that talked me out of it. Going into my sophomore year, this you don't really hear of much, but I'm the backup quarterback all through the regular season and the first round playoff game. And the second round playoff game that Saturday, we always came in on Saturday morning. Coach Chick Childress, who's a legendary coach in the state of Louisiana, brought me in and said, hey, you're going to be the starting quarterback. And really, I had no clue why. I didn't know what I had done to earn that, to be honest with you. But I think, sometimes coaches see things in players before they do. And so my sophomore year, starting the second game of the season, we went on to win the state championship that year and went on a stretch my junior and senior year where, we won the state championship again my senior year. So, I guess I'm lucky that I had coaches that believed in me. And part of the reason, one, being my dad, but two, other coaches I was around, is why I got in the profession, is to help people see something in them that they may not see initially in themselves.
So you become this very successful high school quarterback. You come to Northwestern, and there's something to prove, and suddenly you've got the opportunity to do it. You're playing as a true freshman, not by plan, but by necessity. What did that experience do to shape your perspective as a student athlete?
Well, I learned a lot. So as I left Ruston High, unlike Torrey, because I recruited Torrey and I saw Torrey Morgan play as a sophomore, and it's when I recognized him in the semifinals his sophomore year. And unlike Bobby, because I know his baseball career and what it was in high school, I wasn't the best at Ruston High in football. We had the likes of two guys that signed with LSU, one with Auburn, one with Nebraska. We had 11 guys that signed Division I college football. That's why we won, not because who was a quarterback. Luckily, Sam Goodwin, very much like Chick Childress, saw something in me at Northwestern State. When I was at Ruston. And I think it's because there was a number 10 here in the late 80s that had a lot of success, and he was short, by the name of Scott Stoker. And I really believe because I was short and wore number 10, that's why Sam Goodwin recruited me. He may never admit to that, but I believe that's true. And so when I got to Northwestern, at that time you didn't have a limit of how many guys you could have for fall camp. You know, right now, coming into fall camp, we can only have 105. Back then, we may have had 150. And there were 7 or 8 quarterbacks, and I was the last quarterback. And I was like, what am I doing? And of those, however many we had, 7 or 8, literally everyone got hurt. And there was 4 games left, and Sam Goodwin brought me in on Sunday. The week before, they had gone, I can't remember where they had gone to. I wasn't even traveling. And the last quarterback got hurt, and they had to finish the game with the running back. And so I think I had gone home that weekend to Ruston, and so I came back Sunday, and Coach Sam Goodwin called me in his office and said, look, I'm going to give you the option. He said, there's only 4 games left. If you play, at that time, if you played 1 game or 1 snap, you burn your redshirt year. And he said, I'm not going to force you to do it because I don't want you to, you know, with only 4 games left, burn your redshirt year. I said, are you telling me I have the opportunity to play? And he said, yes, sir. I said, well, the heck with the red shirt. And so that's how I was able to earn the opportunity to be able to play. Needless to say, the first game, Texas State, which was Southwest Texas then, was in our conference. And I'm going to tell you, I go during warm-ups, and we played there, and I threw it the best I ever threw it during warm-ups. And I said, this thing is easy. College football is going to be easy. And in the first quarter, after throwing 3 interceptions, I realized that, no, it's not quite that easy. And I tell you, that was a tough bus ride. You know, when you get on that bus and you're the freshman that threw 3 interceptions in the first quarter. Now, one thing, you know, people always say it can only get better. Well, yeah, you can't. I mean, it's hard to throw 3 in a quarter, so it had to get better. But it did, and it was a learning experience. And I think, you know, right away I learned that, hey, I'm going to have to get better and be surrounded by good people, which we were.
And so you go on, you have individual success, we have team success. At what point did you say to yourself, this is really where I needed to be, this is my school, I'm so happy I'm here?
Yeah, I would probably say it wasn't until my 3rd year here, to be honest with you, even though I knew Natchitoches. I mean, my dad was, when I was kindergarten through 5th grade, my dad was here. Like you said, I was a little runt running around on the field. And so I knew Natchitoches, and so when we moved, you know, he got the job at Louisiana Tech coaching there, and so we moved to Ruston, and I graduated from Ruston. So I knew Coach Goodwin, and I knew Natchitoches, but again, when I got here as a student, you know, it was just, it was big. I was the 7th quarterback, just trying to find classrooms and where I'm supposed to go. I was like, this isn't for me, and I hated the smell of Natchitoches. I couldn't get out of here on weekends fast enough. I thought I was marrying my high school sweetheart, so I'd go home whenever I could. And so that happened. So the end of my fall, my first year when I was able to play. Now my 2nd year, I'm going into my 2nd year. I'm the quarterback now, right? Well, we played Troy State. At Troy State, I believe it was the 2nd game of the season, and I break my collarbone. And so I go from finally earning that starting quarterback job to getting hurt, and I'm out for the season. And so I still didn't feel that connection because, again, as that was early on in the season, and as they get on a bus on Fridays and leave for away games, you're not part of that. And so that was tough. So it was probably that 3rd year, I would say, to where I said, you know what, this is home. This is where I'm supposed to be.
So you get to the 3rd year, and I'm going to ask you this question again later. You're settled in, you're a key part of the team, and throughout the rest of your time as a player, what did being a Demon mean to you?
Probably the people. Because, you know, I can't, you know, a lot of people used to ask me, what does a Bearcat mean to you? When I was at Ruston High. And the one thing I would always reflect back then was the people that I was around. And not just the coaches. You know, I mean, yes, you're around coaches, you're around your teammates more than anybody else, but it's the people that's involved at Ruston High. When I got to Northwestern, there was one other teammate that came with me. That was the only person that I knew. And so by the time I got to my 3rd year, it wasn't just about the teammates and the coaches, but it was, I mean, I could go to the fraternities, and I was friends with them. I wasn't in one, but I was involved, And you know, it was the professors that you dealt with on a day-to-day basis. And one thing I found out, then it became smaller. And okay, it's a smaller school where you know everybody, and you find out real quick. And I found this when I was in administration here, that I thought I knew it, and it just put an exclamation point on it when I was in administration, that everybody is pulling in the same direction. Some people may not see it because, you know, they work in different aspects of the university, but when you see it from different perspectives, everybody's pulling in the same direction. Everybody wants the university to be the best that it can be. And I think that's because of the people.
And that's what gives you such a unique perspective. You stepped out of athletics here at this campus and worked in the Alumni and Foundation area. And so you've seen how important Watson Library is to our campus. You've seen what the Student Activities Board means. You've seen what the alumni mean. And how, I think you just answered this question, how did that reinforce your impression of what being a Demon is?
And I've said this, that's probably one of the best jobs that I've had. Because, you know, sometimes whatever office you're in, and I'm gonna say the field house because that's where my office is, sometimes you think nothing exists outside those four walls. You know, you look at your desk every day, you go to work every day, sometimes you don't see what's going on the outside. And so for me to be involved with the alumni, you know, be involved, it was a fundraising aspect, so I was dealing with you know, different professors and, you know, business department, English department, you know, different departments and different people within those departments. So you learn real quick that, you know what, everybody's pulling in the same direction. And I think that's the biggest thing I was able to take back as I assembled a staff. And as we all know, in college athletics, staffs are constantly changing. They are in football. But as new staff members have come in, that's one thing I've been able to tell them when they ask me, well, tell me about Northwestern State. And I get to say, well, I can tell you from a coach and I can tell you from an administrator. And you're not going to have anybody else that's going to be able to tell you from that perspective. And so it's, I think it goes a long way in when you're recruiting coaches to come here. I have a pretty good story to tell them and what to expect when they come to Natchitoches and Northwestern State.
Another aspect of your administrative career at Ruston High School, you became the athletic director as well. So you went to the softball games, you went to the swim meets, and I'm sure you're a parent, you've got a daughter and a son, and you already had an appreciation for it, but I'll bet that deepened your appreciation for the softball competitors, for the volleyball folks, the track athletes.
No doubt, and I'll tell a story that my dad told me, because my dad had been an athletic director at several different schools prior to being the athletic director at Ruston High. But prior to him being at Ruston High, I remember I asked him, because it was the spring and he was the athletic director at another school, and I mean, he was just running around, it was so busy. And I said, it can't be any busier than football season, because, you know, again, that mindset, you think that nothing exists outside, it's only football, 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 until I became athletic director. And once you get to December and January and you got basketball games and you got softball, you got baseball, you got track, I mean, you're at a lot of different events, swimming. That was actually a fall sport at Ruston High. But, you know, that another appreciation I have for the student athletes, because yes, I see it in football because I'm with them probably more, but I see other student athletes and what they have to endure, and especially baseball and softball. Now that I have I guess a sophomore in high school, I don't know if anybody spends more time on the diamond than baseball and softball. So, you know, you have a better appreciation of what other student athletes have to go through.
Now you're, as a head coach, in the era of the transfer portal, and you've already referred to recruiting staff members as constantly people are moving up in the profession, moving to other places for other reasons. But now you're dealing with student athletes who've been at other colleges, like Laney started at LSU, and they're looking for a home that's a better fit. What are the messages that you can share with them about what being a Demon will do for their lives?
Well, one, I'd like to say this, since you mentioned the transfer portal, it's a tough topic, because I think you're looking at these four that are sitting up here that spent 4 to 5 years. I know they're in their initial journey of it, but 4 to 5 years at the university that really made them who they are, made me who I am. And are student athletes going to get that moving forward when they have the opportunity to transfer? Now, NCAA has allowed that. And not just, you think about a professor, okay? And if you're sitting here and you're teaching a class, and in 2 or 3 months, you got 7 or 8 students that hop up and leave in the middle of the class, and you're trying to teach them, and you got new ones coming here, and you got these that are that much further along, you got 8 new ones, you got to go back and teach them, and now you're holding them back. Well, that's no different than a football team, and no different than a classroom, you know? So I think I admire the coaches and the players that are here that have brought the transfers in. I think that's a testament to our guys because they have, with open arms, welcomed them in and showed them the ropes of what it takes to be successful at Northwestern State. And I think I have, again, when I'm meeting with those individuals, I believe sharing my past is a positive that's going to help them make that decision because, again, I've seen it from a lot of different perspectives. I left, I've come back, and there's a reason I've come back because it is a special place with special people. So, you know, you're going to have the opportunity, one, to be successful on the field, but two, be successful in the classroom. And you know, everybody's goal, yes, is to make the NFL, but less than 1% have that opportunity. So the 99% are going to take what they get from this classroom, which this is a classroom where there is teaching that's going on, to be able to use in the real world in whatever they choose to do.
This is a topic that we could continue to cover for hours on end, but there are things like team meetings and practices and things that you guys need to go do, and we've got another group to interview yet. So I want to thank you, Coach Bobby Barbier, Tori Morgan, Laney Roos, and Coach Brad Laird for sharing what you have brought to us this afternoon in Watson's Library, the Living Library program, and for what you do to represent what being a demon means to all of us, as you are exemplary examples of that. Thank you very much.